Sure.
All right, here we go. Welcome to the smartest people in the room. We are so glad you're here with us, and just by showing up, you are already demonstrating your very own smarts. Today, we continue our celebration of Women's History Month by featuring one of my good friends and prolific mentor to so many music tech entrepreneurs, Beth Raebeck Hall, and her friend Doug DeAngelis. Before we get started, let me take care of some business. First, to the audience, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat window. The reason we do these webinars is twofold. First, we want to showcase really smart people and the amazing work they do day to day in the music industry. But the second reason is a bit more nuanced. Many of you know that I am a music industry headhunter. I place music executives in roles throughout the industry. So by definition and function, I help people connect with companies. In this series, my goal is to help you make more connections, and I invite you to take full advantage of that opportunity. Specifically, I invite you to engage with the speakers and the other attendees in the chat of the Zoom. Please introduce yourselves, share your LinkedIn profile, say hello to your friends, and make some new ones. And ask questions of our speakers. We will try to address as many of those as possible during the interview itself. Also, please make sure your chat is set to address speakers and attendees. I want to thank our sponsors, for without their support, we could not keep this free. I want to thank First Horizon Bank, Bufkin Baker, Four Roses Bourbon, the Fairlane Hotel, the Tennessee Entertainment Commission, Lightning 100, Tennessee Brew Works, Moo TV, Jive Printing, Project Music, and Cushmaster's brand of CBD products. So let's get down to business. In today's host seat, we welcome Doug DeAngelis. Doug began his professional career at age 18 as a multi-platinum engineer, programmer, and mixer. His studio credits featured 31 Billboard Dance Charts #1 singles with artists including Nine Inch Nails, Michael Jackson, Alicia Keys, and No Doubt. After 12 years in the record industry, he relocated to LA and shifted his focus to film and television music. He is a BMI award-winning composer, songwriter, and music supervisor who was instrumental in the emergence of independent music in television and film. He's had thousands of music placements in all mediums, and his work was a cornerstone of the industry practice now referred to as sync. He teaches music to picture at the Blair School of Music at Vanderbilt. Outside of the studio, Doug is the co-founder of Black Sleeve Media and is the host of the A3E Conference, a global thought leadership summit on the future of music technology. Welcome, Doug. Great to have you here, man.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And it's so nice to see some old friends popping in. I'm loving it.
Right
Yeah,
on.
we have the whole crew here today. I'm so excited. Thank you, Corey, Jeremy, Whitney, everybody that's taken time out of their day.
Hang on,
hope
guys.
we're gonna tell some stories maybe you haven't heard.
And joining today, Doug, as today's special guest, is Beth Raebeck Hall. A native New Yorker, Beth is known as a spitfire thinker and creative spark plug. A Grammy-nominated songwriter and artist, award-winning writer, and published author, Beth is the founder and owner of Music Row 411, a cutting-edge online digital learning platform and independent publishing company, Crazy Ray Music, which is associated with BMI. In addition, she co-founded Tin Pan South and created the brand. Beth serves as the host-producer of a podcast called Three Chords and the Truth, which explores past, present, and future creators, innovators of the music business. Beth is unique in having served on all sides of the creative equation. Passionate about music and tech, she's one of the most requested mentors and advisors for Project Music at the Nashville Entrepreneur Center. Her razor-sharp insight and ability to help young companies move forward is well known. Currently, she serves as an advisory board member for TechCrunch New York Disrupt winners, Creator.app, formerly known as RecordGram, and fintech startup RootNote. Other companies she advises include FanFlex, Itty Ditty, Black Sleeve Media, Sooner, transgender startup company called Translate, and many others. Having lived in Nashville since graduating from Vanderbilt, Beth is a fierce champion and advocate of her adopted hometown and community. Please welcome these amazing guests to the smartest people in the room. Take it away, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you so much, Tom. And thanks for putting these on. This is such a cool format. And I said to you before this started, it's nice to be part of Smartest People in the Room. It's also amazing to see a room full of the smartest people in a chat room too. So we got such
Yeah, really.
incredible people joining us right now. It's quite an honor to be here with all them too. So thank you all for joining us. Beth, I'm going to just kick this off for us if that's okay.
Sure.
So
I hope you're going to tell them about you because you're pretty impressive, Doug.
well, thank you. I'm going to keep it about you right now. Let's stick with Beth Raebeck Hall for this hour. So I'll give a little background on me just to sort of frame why I was given the honor of being here and doing this with you. I started out as a musician and really more on the production side. Definitely, I was not, heavily involved in studio work growing up, and then moved into film and television and all of that, and really blossomed more musically later on in my life. When I got to Nashville, I really jumped into the world of entrepreneurship heavily. And part of, the leaving film and television music and coming here and being part of it and being part of Project Music, where I met you as a mentor, was really starting to understand and learn what entrepreneurship meant. And then once I started to understand what it meant, I realized, oh, I've been this my whole life. This is just kind of what a musician is. But then there's a lot to unpack there as far as the trajectory of how the industry's changed over the years and how we went from where we were back when I started in the 80s to now. Young artists, young musicians, they literally live in this world of entrepreneurship. So what I wanted to focus on today is your incredible, first of all, your amazing background. But
What happens when you're old?
But you have brilliant eyes and spirit as a mentor. And so it's just been made so valuable to me in my life in the last few years since I met you. And so I really want to try to start kind of from the beginning and unpack what all that is and where it comes from. And hopefully by the end of this hour, get to the understanding of how can we all get mentored? How can we become those little diamonds in the rough that someone like Beth Raebeck Hall sees and says, you're special. I want to help lift you up and take you with me. Because I think that's something everybody needs. I mean, I need it every single day. I could never get enough of it. So that's what I'm hoping we can talk about today in this discussion and kind of get some understanding of how you do what you do and what just looking through your eyes some.
Okay.
Okay.
First question, please.
So let's
I'll take Doug DeAngelis for 500, please.
So first of all, we both come from New York.
Right.
I'm in Connecticut originally, but
New York girl.
You're a New York girl, grew up in Bronxville, right?
Yes, I am.
So music started young for you.
Very young, very, very young.
What was the entry point into it?
I started playing piano by ear when I was 3. I am an 18-year classically trained musician like Peggy Dold, have a classical background. When I was in kindergarten, I started writing songs and somehow got a song published in the high school magazine. In 5th grade, I had a song published nationally with a children's record we were doing at Radio City Music Hall. I got $10 for it. That was pretty proud.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
hard to get that now for a record.
I still have the receipt. It says $10. It's more than the last streaming check I got.
I was gonna say that right now. It would be gold right now.
And just continued throughout my life as a kid and a teenager. Doing anything and everything I could do in music, whether it was choir or chorus, or grew up going to the Fillmore East. I was eaten up. I was so fortunate to be part of the greatest era of rock and roll and pop music and singer-songwriters, the 60s and 70s, many of whom you have produced and engineered. It was just like a giant merry-go-round candy store. You know, everything was happening. Social change was happening. Um, it was just, I couldn't get enough of it. It obviously was in my DNA, and I just did everything and everything that I could to make music, be music. And I've been a clown since I was 3 years old. So, you know, or I always tell my good friend Whitney, I've been on stage since I was a kid. And my mother always said I came out talking and haven't shut up since. So there you go.
Nice. So, so, you know, before you can learn why you need to be mentored, you know, you first have to sort of start where everybody starts, which is you don't know what you don't know, which is the first reason I think why everybody needs a mentor. Even when you think you know everything, it's just because you don't know all the things you don't know. So, what were some of the mistakes you made at the beginning? You know, kind of
How long
early.
do you have? I mean, I think one of the things people tend to forget, because whether it was me in the 70s or, you know, later, or somebody who is trying to figure this out right now, um, we all have a very distorted perception of reality and how people look at us and where we fit in and all of those sorts of things. So it's extraordinarily confusing. Um, so the first thing I always tell people is, if you can speak in your own voice, you can survive in the world. And that's what we all need somebody to help us with. If you're looking for a job, you need somebody like a Tom who can take your skills and evaluate them and direct you to the right, you know, perfect job that you would excel in and shine in. If you're a songwriter, a publisher is looking for the magic of your creativity that resonates with the kind of music they publish and promote, or artists they develop. And the same thing with, you know, recording artists. So the first thing you have to do, if you're looking for a mentor, is sort of be yourself. And that sounds really simple, but you have to get comfortable in your own skin and not be afraid to ask and say, hey, I need some help. Can someone help me? And I've found throughout my life that that's the scariest thing any of us deal with on
Well,
any daily basis.
you know, the state of the business is just exacerbated that so much, because I think, you know, in the old way this used to work, creative people had to be creative, business people had to be business. There was creative business people that worked in marketing, but everybody had sort of their skill. So it was kind of easier then to be really confident in what you were good at. We're all now taxed to do so many things that take us out of our comfort zone constantly, that I don't know how anybody, you know, can sort of be in a comfort zone all the time. So I think we all fall into that problem all the time. So I guess.
Well, you know, with our company, with Music Grow 411, the way we help people is applicable to anything you want to do, whether it's if you want to be the head of a record label, if you want to have a management company, if you want to be an entrepreneur. First of all, you are an entrepreneur, because in today's world, everybody is a brand. And I don't mean just taking selfies of yourself on the street corner with some new handbag or some, you know, cool hat or something like that. That's just bullshit, pardon my French. But if you want to put yourself out there, if you want to succeed, you are an individual and you are a brand that should be known for something, which is who you are, right? So the first thing anybody needs to do, regardless of what your entry into whatever your entry point is where are you? This is what we tell people all the time. Where are you in your journey? Do you know about record labels? Do you know about management? Do you know about songwriting? Do you know how it works? Do you know the business? Do you know how it all fits together? You know, do you think because you watch The Voice 17 times that you're just going to go out and audition and be on the show, or, you know, send a tape off and somebody's going to discover you? That world doesn't exist anymore. So you have to get very, very clear with step one. And step one is different for every single person. You know, step one is, I really love writing songs and I think I want to do this. Okay, well, what do you know about that, right? I want to be a sound engineer. Okay, how does all that work? Who's great in that? You know, what do I need to know about it? It's just like the giant discovery process, right? You know, exploring the world. And
Well,
then you have to figure out, what do you want? What are your expectations? And where do you want to go with that?
and that's sort of where the entrepreneurship part starts. I mean, I kind of break it into two parts. I think that, you know, for artists, for creative people, the creativity part is kind of, what's my idea? You know, if you're a musician, it's, what kind of music do I make? What are my musical ideas? And then I think, you know, the second part to that is the natural part of, like, how do I convey them? If I'm a vocalist, how do I convey that? Keyboard player, how do I do that? Film composer, whatever it is. I think where it starts to shift gears and get into the world of entrepreneurship is when you start to think about all of the components of the business that, you know, typically in the days of everybody being a curated artist, were all done for you: producer, A&R person, marketing department, mastering engineer, you know, everything, publicists, booking agencies, tour management, all of these things that were, you know, support systems around you. So I think in the world now, the entrepreneurship kind of starts with, when you hit that, when you, once you step past that point of creativity, and you have to say to yourself, is there an audience that would want to hear me? Then, you know, how do I make my musical ideas have value to that audience? Now you're into entrepreneurship. How do I create value? What is value? I mean, what is value? Is it somebody's time? Do I want their time? Do I want their attention? Do I want their Friday night? Do I want their money?
So
You
then
know,
you have to be like Alice and go down, you know, you have to go down the rabbit holes. And you
let's
have to,
start with that rabbit hole. Let's go rabbit hole by rabbit hole, and we'll go from there. So there's rabbit hole one.
okay, so rabbit hole one, you want to be a
Okay.
songwriter or you want to be a singer. Um, why? Is it, you know, what is your primary motivation? I always tell, whether it's students that I've had or advisees or other people I work with, if you can live without music or whatever it is you're doing, if you can live with that and just sort of put it on the shelf and walk away, then you need to get the hell out, because that is not your passion. And that is going to resonate through whatever you do. If you don't love finance and you don't want to commit to knowing everything there is today about what's going on and, you know, new mechanisms, then you're not going to succeed. If you're a real estate agent, you have to know all the ramifications, you know, what affects real estate investing, taxes, land cost, all of those things. So if you want to be a singer or you want to be a songwriter, what sound moves you? What resonates in that heart and that soul of you? What has to come out? And what does that sound like? Does it sound like Aloe Black? Does it sound like Casey Musgraves? Or, you know, where do you kind of, in your mind, you don't have to be perfect, but where do you think? Where are you kind of touchy-feely about all that stuff? And when you figure that out, then you look at those people and say, okay, I need to know how they got there and what did they do and how many people like them are out there. And it's a big research game is what it is. But in that process,
Right.
you start to find the kernels or the breadcrumbs that you resonate with. Like, I didn't know that. I can do that. Or this is something that really interests me. I didn't know they were interested in animal rights. So I think I'm going to write a song about protecting dogs. I'm just throwing things out there, but you have to find not only your tribe, but you have to find your niche and where your exact entry point is and how your idea fits with that. If I want to be an R&B singer, I don't need to be in the Americana conference unless I'm more on the root spectrum of it. It's so nuanced today. Everything is nuanced.
Mhm.
And so if you're going down the rabbit hole of discovery, you really have to figure out what makes your heart go fast,
Yeah, I'm watching the chat as you're talking, and there's some interesting things popping up of,
And I'm trying to be like succinct and not saying things. I'm not reading it.
but like, find your tribe, and sort of Christina saying reverse engineering, and that's what you're talking about. It's kind of looking at artists. But I mean, whether you're running a business or whether you're launching a music project, it's the same thing. You've got to first identify, is there an audience, and then who is that audience,
And
then,
will they pay for something?
right. And they don't necessarily have to pay for it in money. They can pay for
Right.
it in love. They can pay for it in
Or
attention.
time.
Time is valuable in this game. Time can equal sponsorship. Time can equal other things. So if you can get people to spend their time with you, engagement time, that has value on its own.
Okay, so I'm going to throw a little, like you asked me earlier on, and I remember now that I didn't answer that question, mistakes I made.
Yes.
And I've never talked about this before really publicly, but I was invited to participate in a industry conference that there used to be a lot of them. You got picked to go showcase whatever, So I got picked to do this, and it was right at the very beginning of my performing career. And I went to Memphis to do it, and there was a lot of buzz about me because I'm a good promoter and I know a lot of people. But guess what? I didn't really know about, like, I had to have a stage persona, like what I look like in that artist image. So I took my kind of pedestrian, my everyday person, and presented it that way. Well, guess what? That was not the right thing. And that sounds like a little thing, but when you're at a music conference and you kind of don't know, and you don't know that you don't know, which is what you were asking before. And the next day, you know everybody, and you're like, hey, how was the show? And they're like, yeah, which is the music business, way of saying it sucked. And, you were not there, and thanks a lot. But that's a very real thing, because people in the music business don't tell you the truth. They just don't. And in the South, it's worse because they don't want to hurt your feelings. So they always slide it somewhere else. Like, rather than committing to something, go see Doug. Doug could really do something with that. That's a truth. That's the way that business works in the South. Now you go to New York and they're like, you play in music and they're like, yeah, I like that one. This one's sort of okay. This one is terrible. Next. Now let's get some lunch, So that's really hard stuff when you really are bumbling along and don't know who you are. Oh, I didn't know I had to have the me in the clothes because I was just doing this all on my own, right? I didn't have a manager. I didn't have a publisher. It was just bumble along, And that's why I say it's really important that you start and do things the right way from the get-go. And that's finding out these pieces. Like if you're an entrepreneur and you want to make this widget, and you think it's the greatest widget that ever was, and you spend all this time and money and research and developing this, and then you get to a place where you're going to show it to everybody else, and then you find out there are 15 other widgets exactly like that.
There is the case. Yep.
Well, great. And so rather than put your, head between your legs or your tail between your legs, then what you have to have the tough skin or a mentor to help you say, okay, that's great. You developed this. This is, you know, you have the right idea, but what could you do that differentiated that idea and made it more valuable to the person that's going to want that, or solve A, B, and C problem instead of just A.
Right.
So it's always, you know, it's always cut and paste.
If you don't put yourself in a situation where a mentor asks you those questions, they're hard questions. It's not fun. It's not fun being in that situation. I mean, having great mentors in your life is a huge blessing, but it's not fun. I'm just being honest. It's painful.
No,
It's
no.
really painful a lot of times. I mean, you're fun because you're an angel, but in
No, I'm from New York and I say what I think.
like Tom,
And I didn't know any better, so I just stuck with it and it works. So,
you know, Tom, full disclosure, is also a mentor of mine. I have a lot of mentors in Nashville, several, you know, being part of Nashville Entrepreneur Center. And Tom's events were some of the first things that I started going to when I came here. And he is a mentor to me.
Tom's a mentor to everybody. And, you know,
is the beginning of growth, you know, and I think that, you know, the second step of this equation is you have to figure out, I'm going to keep trying to translate between musician and entrepreneur, and musician
okay.
because I think we are all taxed with that. I want everybody who's here to kind of think of themselves as a creative person, but also think of their business. And if they're not working this way yet, sort of invite them into these thought processes. Because, I mean, everybody has, of course, can do however they want, but just sort of inviting them into these kind of thought processes that I got dropped into. I didn't really know what I was doing, and I landed on my head in them. But mentorship, and this is how I met you, you know, it is being asked those tough questions, but the step you're trying to get to when a great mentor is asking you those questions is, are you doing something that's valuable? And if so, then how can you adjust it to create what would be your first group, which would sort of be what we call early adopters, the people that are going to love you right away because you can connect to them. And I think you brought it up a minute ago when you said, you know, are you doing something like Aloe Black? Are you doing something like Casey Musgraves? And if it's Casey Musgraves, like, who is her tribe? Well, her tribe should probably like this if it's something that would fit their taste, right? So maybe inside there is those early adopters. But the tricky part is, once you get them, how do you keep them? And that, I think, is what good mentors start to ask those questions, and they start to try to help you refine what you're doing. How do you, when you're meeting new people and you're seeing things that people are doing, how do you start to see the process of, this is the pure concept, this is that pure creative spirit that, I mean, there's nothing more gorgeous in life than that, you know? But then you have to start to ask the question, how do we refine it, right?
Well, I think one thing I always ask people whenever I meet with them is, you know, I want to know a little bit about them. And then I said, why did you decide to do this? And, you know, what made you want to do this? And then the next question is, why do you think it matters? And we all need to matter. Every human needs to matter. And when you take a risk and step outside of that shell that we all have, that protects our heart, protects our brain, protects our soul, and you go out and somebody says, why? You have to open up and let that idea breathe a little bit. And it doesn't matter if it's right. There is no judgment, but you asking that question helps somebody also identify, are they doing what they think they should be doing, or are they doing what they want to do because they believe in X, right?
Right.
So it's tough, you know, Doug. Everybody, I guess probably one of the reasons that people want to meet with me is I don't tell them what they want to hear. I tell them what they need to hear.
Yeah.
And that's how you grow. And change is not fun. Change is terrible. I hate change.
Oh,
Just ask my family. They're like, Mom, you don't want to do this. But, to grow and to fit into the flow or the stream of whatever it is you want to do, you have to be fluid. You have to be adaptable. Look at what the pandemic did. The whole live music industry had to change. They had to figure out how to survive, right? So there are all these entrepreneurs that have come out and they're like, okay, well, we could do it this way, or we could create this, or we could do that. And the artists and the songwriters and everybody had to adjust. So they had to be malleable. They had to be open to possibilities that maybe they didn't really want to do, right?
mhm.
So entrepreneurs, it takes a long time to get something right. And I think that we live in a world of, I got in trouble for saying this one time on a phone call with the guy that actually launched them. But I think a lot of these younger people have grown up in the Kardashian world of you don't have to do anything to be famous. Well, guess what, folks? Anything worth doing, anything you want, anything you want to be, it takes a lot of hard work.
Mhm.
And the key to being a mentor is to keep the mentor mentee on track, but also know when they need to be lifted up and encouraged,
Yep.
or find something positive within what they're doing that they can expand upon and feel good about, because then it balances out the hard stuff that they in their they're like, they know, everybody knows when they need to make changes or things. you know you can't enter into the dance of death when it comes to being an artist or an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and this is. I want to just step aside for 1 second and kind of make a parallel so everybody can kind of really see why we're talking about the entrepreneurship part of this. When we started in the music industry, Beth, everything was curated. So our pathway to success was in a pathway in. Okay, we were trying to get in the door of the shrouded industry of record companies and publishing companies and these things that were a curated system of you lined up for miles, figuratively, your whole life, tried to do your very best creative work to get picked by one of them to say, hey, you're valuable to us, come in, and then we'll take it from there. And all of this stuff we're talking about of trying to figure out how to present it, trying to figure out how to market it, trying to build an audience, trying to retain an audience, all of that stuff was then their job.
Right.
So
Now it doesn't exist.
no, so we were on the way into a machine that then did that. What we're talking about now is a business where all of those building blocks are there for everyone and everyone's trying to utilize them themselves. So now it's a one to directly to many, it's human direct to audience, right? And that's where you're much more like a startup business who creating a new product and has to be instantly put out into the world with every other product and try to find a home with an audience, as opposed to being curated through a path where once you're in that door, they told the audience what they were going to like. It came through radio. You're going to like this artist because we're not going to stop playing it until you do.
And artists didn't have freedom to do things. If there's so much hybrid collaboration going on right now, that was not tolerated before. You're like, you're going to screw up our radio promotion if you're hanging out with these people, and we need to keep you in this lane. There are so many lanes now. The hard part is figuring out your lane, how to stay in it, and when you need to switch lanes, which is
in the entrepreneur world what we call pivoting.
Absolutely.
Having to take your business and having to say, okay, I really love what I do. It's not quite connecting to my audience. I'm having a hard time finding who that is. And then having people like you come in and really scrutinize what you do and look at it and say, it's good, but you're going to have this. I've already seen this problem, and I've already seen this problem. The goal of bringing people into your world like you is to be able to have people who have already seen all those problems before you and can save you weeks, months, maybe even years of time sputtering around in circles doing something that ultimately they've already seen fail for a very good
And
reason and know
and
why.
in the entrepreneur world, you listen to somebody like our own beloved Marcus Whitney, who the first thing he says in his talks when he speaks to people is fail fast.
Yeah.
And people don't get told that in the music industry. It's more like, you failed, we don't like you. You're not going to make money for us, or you're not going to, but fail fast, figure out what you did wrong, pick yourself up and go. Maybe that isn't the right market for you. Maybe you're trying to penetrate something and you're trying to be a live um, band when you should be a singer-songwriter or a duo or an acoustic act. And that is where people really are able to hear your music and resonate. If you're trying to be an entrepreneur in the tech world, like how you guys are you trying to take on like Apple or some huge company that already has bazillions of dollars and an R&D department that's doing that? No. Whatever you do, whether it's music or it's music tech or it's headhunting, it has to have a personal connection to work.
Yep.
That's it.
Well, I see a lot of people in the chat kind of talking about the kind of 10,000 hours model and those things. And there is a lot to be said for that. And I totally agree with everything everybody's saying. I also think, though, in this time,
Michelle Schock said, Doug did the time. Go, Michelle. You didn't hear us, but we were shouting you out as one of the most brilliant minds that is living proof that you are a stellar artist, original human, and you're on top of things and you always know what's going on and you always inspire people. So if you don't know who Michelle Schock is, you go look her up and listen to her music, because this woman is the voice of change.
the real deal. Thank you for being here, Michelle. That's awesome. Yeah, I totally. So, I recognize that. I think we're in this weird time, though, right now, where what you learn in the world of entrepreneurship and how you have to apply that to music is you realize that you may have to make change. And so I think it's important to start to spend 5 of those 10,000 hours meeting your audience and talking to them and hearing them and bringing them on, like finding out a way to bring them into your world, not expect you to just be in theirs. This is not a business anymore of you just love me and I sit here and
Mm-mm.
I get on a stage. I'm loved. That's my job. I'm loved. That's not what this is now. And I think a lot of that time really needs to be dedicated to exploring who your audience is and what they feel and what they think, and learn just like it is with your customer. And that's where that parallel again comes to entrepreneurship. I remember saying to Jane Allen, who's the new CEO over at the Nashville Entrepreneur Center, when the first day I met her, that entrepreneurship kicked my ass because there was this basic primary thing that I had never experienced in my life. I always lived and worked under the notion that, if I was brought into a room to do my job, I should know my job was to be the voice of that particular thing, whether it was producing a record, a soundtrack, whatever it was. I should know what I feel and I should stick to it. That was my job as a creative person, as a creative professional in that room. There was one of me and there was one of several others. There'd be, people doing all different roles, but that would be my role. I wasn't supposed to walk in and say, I don't know. I wonder what everybody else thinks and our customers all think. Maybe we should, I don't know what this record should sound like. Maybe we should just go outside and ask a bunch of people what this person's record should sound like. They would have laughed you out of the room. fast forward to now, we live in a very different world, and that's in the world of entrepreneurship. For me, when I started Black Sleeve Media, and what I do at the Entrepreneur Center, it was like, wait, I'm supposed to find out from my customer what I do? Like, they're supposed to.
But you did a brilliant job, and I think it would be of great interest to our folks out there, Doug, to talk about. Doug has this amazing company, and as if it isn't enough that the guy has had 4,000 sync placements and is like literally one of the godfathers of sync, and then took all of his knowledge as a music producer and engineer, working with Daft Punk, with Nine Inch Nails, with 9,000 people. I mean, if you had 3 hours, I could tell you all the people he's worked with. It should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But Doug then took his love of all this and created this magnificent initiative called A3E, which is an education initiative that is a whole series of innovation, of thought leaders, of new products, and all of these things, which is a giant umbrella of mentorship at the country's largest music convention, NAMM, which is where all the instruments and all the groovy new pedals and microphones, and it started for music educators. But Doug, taking his stuff, all this knowledge, all this hands-on 10,000 hours, all of this brilliance, and then said, I'm going to give back because these younger people need to know. So he rallied the troops of his world of music production and film and television and created this initiative. Now he has Black Sleeve Media, and he's come up with a product that he didn't know was going to end up what it is today, and has connected this product to the #1 show on Netflix, Cheer. And Doug, I gotta just say, you gotta tell them how, just a quick thing of how that changed from your initial vision to how it came about being an AI app that is white labeled for businesses.
It is. I mean, it was a journey. We started it in one zone, and this is all the mentors asking those questions, and trying to keep kind of knocking you on the head and saying that's not quite going to work. But ultimately, what we, through a lot of pivots and shifts, we wound up sticking with the original concept, which was applying the monetization model of gaming, of how does an audience spend money in gaming? They unlock things. It's an interactive process of they spend money to get farther and farther and farther engaged in having fun with it. So we took that and we applied that to music, and then we apply it to television shows, we apply it to music festivals, sports franchises, whatever. We can do it across any type of thing, where we create this sort of mobile companion platform where fans at home have a full mobile experience of whatever their fanism is that they're loving, but it's a gamified world where they can, whether it be a piece of music or in the world of cheer, creating crazy cheer routines and competing against each other. It gamifies everything for them. And then they spend money doing that. And our goal in the music world is to be able to apply all that gamification to music, to artists. We've built a remix machine, so you can remix the music, you can choreograph stage shows, you can play themed games, you can follow tours, you can do all these things, and you ultimately connect with the artist and you win things, and you win meet and greets and VIP passes and stuff. And the idea is that money then comes in and we're able to actually generate real money for artists and real money for publishers. We just aren't selling the physical music, we're selling fun with the music.
And so we sell education.
It's selling education. So it's a new way of monetizing music is what we're trying to do, because it was very obvious to me when I moved to Nashville that there was never going to be another sale of music. That was just not going to happen. So why is it this one industry can have one title that made $250 billion and we can't seem to get out of our own way? and sell anything. So, you know, the idea was, let's take that model and apply it to music. So first we have to make it interactive. Music's never been interactive, and that's, you know, one of the big failures I think of music is, you know, we consume it the exact same way we consumed music in 1975 when I got, you know, I was in middle school or whatever and got the first Queen record. We listened to it on speakers or on a headphones, and we
Oh, I
still,
remember saving up babysitting money
yeah.
to buy my first Bose speakers. I couldn't wait, you
I
know.
mean, we make it differently, we produce it differently, we distribute it differently, we do a ton of things differently, but we still consume it at the end of the day, basically the same way. In the video game world, you know, if you think from Pong back then or Asteroids to now watching kids play Madden football, and you walk in the room and you don't even know, you know, you're not even sure what they're doing. So
Okay, well, since you brought that up, I want to just interject a little tidbit of why our company is different, because it goes back to the education.
Beth, I'm going to
And
turn my camera off for 1 second. Keep talking. Don't,
so,
don't mind me.
no, okay. So for creators today, people who want to be songwriters or bands or duos or even aspire to careers in the industry, the most important thing you can do for yourself, and this is what we teach in a very basic way, is you have to know what is going on, because it today, unlike the days when I was coming up in the business or Doug was coming up in the business and everything was quite static. Record labels dictated things, publishers had their role. Now it's all merged and it's all combining and reconfiguring and bought and sold and bought and sold. So one of the things you have to do as a creator, as a person, as a songwriter, is you have to be an entrepreneur that knows what's going on. And this is not the information. Last year, the average co-writer was number of co-writers on a record was 6 to 7 people. Now, if you're still thinking back in the old days of Nashville that it was just 2 people showing up in a room, that is not true. If you don't know what top lining is or track writing, or that there's opportunity in gaming, or, you know, all of these different things, that's what being an entrepreneur in 2021 means as a songwriter. You have to do that. And people expect you to do that. So what we do is teach you where to start and how to do that, so you're not wasting all your time. Back to my analogy of not wearing the right clothes, which is really embarrassing, but oh well. You know, you have to, it is not always the most talented, the most beautiful or handsome or grooviest person that gets ahead. It's the person that can take the knowledge that's out there and be a really good marketer, and then take the piece of talent they have and find the right people to surround themselves with to package it all up and get it out there. That's the world we live in now.
Mm-hmm.
And kids that are making beats or whatever, they're doing the street stuff, right? They're getting things out the way that back in the days of hip hop, when those creators were selling stuff out of their trunks and selling hundreds of thousands of records before the record labels woke up and said, oh, this is a thing. We can monetize this. We'll get them in, you know. You have to know, you have to be on top. It is a daily requirement on top of everything else you're doing. Read one article, do one thing, read something, listen to a thought leader, listen to a podcast, but get a kernel that you can take away and digest and apply for yourself. And that's what we do with our courses. Our courses are the connective tissue. There are lots and lots and lots of great institutions, collegiate programs, all sorts of things that will tell you how to write a song. We teach you how to be an entrepreneur in the business and move forward faster, not waste your money on a bunch of stuff that doesn't apply to you or whatever. And our mission is to enrich the ecosystem of the entertainment business with knowledgeable creators who feel good about themselves, who are going to develop good mental health practices in their creation process, who are going to seek out mentors, who are going to, you know, it's a scummy, I always say it's a scummy shark infested business, and anybody's crazy that wants to be in it. It's a disease we all have that we want to be in, and you don't get rid of it. But there is help now. There's never been more access to good information, to good people, to Tom Truitt series, to, music tectonics, to the Americana Association. There's so many things. You just have to know where you want to be, and then people can direct you to those resources and give you a plan of action. We help you develop a blueprint that's really easy. And, today you have to do that. And it doesn't matter if you want to be a lawyer, you have to do that. You have to be a rainmaker. It used to be that you'd go to a blue chip firm and stay there for the rest of your life. That's not the way it works now.
No. And the truth is, kind of the final piece to this whole entrepreneur parallel with being an artist is that, the kind of the final piece to the puzzle when you're building a business is to be able to grow it and scale it, right? You've got to start it. You've got to get your early adopters. You've got to convert them into real customers. You got to grow that, right? So growing your fan base. But then ultimately, I think the modern world, you've really got to grow that fan base, or what would be your customers. They're people that have to spend something on you: time, energy, love, money. You've got to grow that, scale that to a large enough audience that you can, in the entrepreneurial, we call it exit, right? Sell it. In this case, as an artist, that perhaps is signing a record deal, right? You're now, because what you're ultimately doing is you're signing that audience over to a larger company. And I think a big part of what record labels do nowadays is they look to sign audiences. Your job as a young artist in this whole concept of the parallel to entrepreneurship is to grow this thing, to build this audience large enough where it has enough value that a parent company would walk in and say, I want to buy that audience. That's a lot of eyes. That's worth us buying. So it's very different than what it used to be, which was, we love this music, let's create an audience for them. It's, wow, look at the audience they've built, let's buy it. And let's bring it under our umbrella and have a bigger audience and a bigger audience and a bigger audience by every one of those they do. So your job is really to scale that and grow that and build that. So Beth, what do you look for when you, what just looking through your eyes, like what makes you what sparks you when you see something that you think is on the right path and you want to get involved? Because you do two things. You ask a lot of tough questions, tell a lot of stories, but we won't count that one, but that's the side. And you connect. You're an amazing connector. You're one of the, I don't want to say you're one of the best. You're the best connector I've ever met in my life.
Thank you.
You are the single best connector I've ever met of being able to look at something and say, I just was at this thing. They were talking about something that was relevant to this. You need to meet them. I'll make that connection. Because most of us are terrible at that. So what is it that sparks you to do that? And how can artists put that spark out for people?
Well, it goes back to what I said earlier, Doug. What sparks me, I do have sort of an intuitive sense. I am a connector. I love people. I've loved people since I could toddle around. That's just kind of my thing. I am fascinated by people, by their ideas about who they are. I'm a curious George. I always have been. And genuinely, there will be some little kernel of, wow, that's really cool. I haven't heard of that before. Or this person has a different view of something, or they are genuinely interested in X. And it sort of is a magical, ethereal process that I go through, but it's a gut instinct. I can tell, number one, is this person, I will not tolerate arrogance, goodbye, thank you. Enough of those people out there. Does this person want to learn? Are they committed to this idea, or Are they doing this because somebody told them it was cool to be an entrepreneur, or, you know, that they needed to invent the next, you're so good at this, go off and do that? No, there's an authenticity, which is becoming a hackneyed phrase now. But when someone is genuine, you can tell. You can tell they're a little shy. They might be introverted. They're nervous. It's kind of like you get that they're behind their face going, God, kill me now. I really don't want to be having this conversation.
Yep, they sure are.
And it's just a spark. There's a spark. Everybody's got a magic spark. You know, everybody's got a unique gift to share with the world. And in the role of a mentor, connecting, you know, like I knew those Recordgram guys the minute they walked in the room for the EC, that first night of Project Music, we were each other's people just because of the kind of people we are. We connected, it happened. You know, I was tough with them too. And now they're like, you know, they're huge, they're global. But, you know, it's the same thing with Root Note. Those guys have worked so hard and they are so real. And they, you know, after 5 years, they are now a SaaS product that is blowing up in the fintech world. But you know what? They were real and they had the right balance. And they went back and they're like, okay, this is not really what people want, but we're hearing a lot of this. So then, you know, as a mentor, you go, okay, well, how are you going to retool that? And what do you need? And then you try to connect people to have the expertise in those areas to help them move to the next stage, right? So, you know, when you meet somebody and you decide you want to work with them, are they going to listen to you? Are they big enough or
Yep.
you know, open enough to listening, to taking advice? Now, you'll find out if they're willing to do that soon enough, but people, you can just tell. It's like, how do people know who has star quality? That person has star quality. And if everybody could have that, then everybody in the world would be some mega star, right? But Bruno Mars has star quality, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You can't bottle that. So entrepreneurs have star quality too. And most of them are introverted. Most of them are humble and extremely bright, and they just need some help, and they're willing to listen and get it to make their dream come alive. And they're not going to give up. They're pit bulls about that. And I look for the pit bulls. And then I also look for the people that maybe need a little pit bull like Beth to be in the background to help them,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
I'm
because
like,
I will go to bat, and I will, you know, I will fight for my people.
you sure do. So everybody needs to check out Music Row 411 if they haven't already. You know, this is what you do. This is what the platform is there for. Your background's incredible, and you know you're giving a place to do it.
Well, you know, I wish there had been somebody for me. Even with all of my musical experiences, it wasn't until late in life that I figured out what my true treasures and talents were. And I got to be a Grammy nominee at 48 years old, doing it all myself. And so my message to people is, if I could do it with no money behind me, except my own, I had 3 kids and a husband. I didn't have a label. I didn't have a publicist. If I can do that, so can you. My friend Type T from Memphis, who's a rapper, did it too. I mean, the tools are there. It's an incredibly arduous process. It is incredibly hard work, but you can do it. And if, you know, like I said before, if you can live without it, then go sell insurance or something. But if you are on fire being around other creative people who see the world through an artist's eyes, or want to take your voice and change things or entertain people, music is the connection between people's hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter if you're promoting the person that is like playing that unbelievable guitar solo, or writing that, you know, Find Your Arrow song, or whatever it is. it's a big community and everybody can have a place in it. And if you love to create, that's the other thing that makes us different. If you do our courses and you do what we tell you to do, you can be the best songwriter in your hometown, and you don't have to move to Nashville and have your soul sucked out of you and spend your entire life savings and go home a broken, miserable person who's going to turn into an addict or, something because they didn't make it in Nashville. There's room for that. Go be a praise and worship leader and find your own route, or go be the best cover band. Shit, those people make more money than half the people who are making money in the industry. So there's room for everybody. And my saying has always been, there's a lot of real estate to be had between being a nobody and being a superstar. And you just need to find out, where is your destination and where is your journey? And what you think it is may not be your final destination, because just like life, we're always changing. But there's plenty of opportunity. There's a million good people out there that are rooting for you and want to see you succeed. And one size does not fit all, And that's what, in popular culture and media, we're all fed every day. Have this bag, have this sound, use this beat. No, it has to make sense for you and your heart.
Well, I'll tell you, there's nothing quite, as enjoyable as giving back when you've been doing this a long time, and you're amazing at it.
Oh, thank you.
Put my website up in the chat. I teach a course at Vanderbilt now called Music to Picture. Tom mentioned earlier. That's a really,
if you want to know sync, this is the guru. In 40 years of taking courses, of attending music conferences and everything, Doug DeAngelis has a way of communicating what sync is, how you do it, why you do it, and how you can do it and move ahead and have success. And it's the most phenomenal thing I've ever heard. And yes, I am opinionated, but I'm telling you the truth, because I've been to a lot of these things. And he is a gift to all of us. And if you want to know anything about sync, or get yourself ready to understand how to get into gaming, because sync and gaming are very much alike, you need to take Doug's course. It's extraordinarily affordable. And he gives you everything he has. He doesn't leave anything, it's all on the table. It's all out of his DNA. And
real passion.
Amazing. Yeah.
A bunch of the people that have taken it have been on here. So thank you all for coming, you guys. You're amazing. And they have been my most inspired thing in the last year. They just kill me. I watch them write Music to Picture every week, and it just blows my mind, the things I see now. So I put my website up, but there's links on there. We're starting a new round of the courses actually next week. Monday night, March 8th, starts the beginning of Music to Picture 1, and Thursday night, March 11th, starts the beginning of Music to Picture 2. They're both amazing. You can go on soundtrackproduction.com, and there's links to both. And there's also I have a little free ebook on there you can download that'll kind of give you a head wrapped around how we talk about sort of seeing music through filmmakers' eyes and understanding how this really works. It's not about metadata and follow your dream and any of that crap. It's a hands-on course of what it's like to be in the edit bay in Hollywood for life, when work with directors and music supervisors, and how to really handle that craft and become a resource. So,
and the other thing, I'll just, shameless self-plug here, but if you want, it's very easy. If you go to our webpage, there's a thing, Yes, I Want to Get Better. We'll send you a guide about avoiding songwriter and demo mistakes. And then you will get the information. We send out freebie Fridays every week that are tips and tools and updates about what's happening in the industry. Short little content bites that you don't have time to go find. We have expert series with people like Doug, and there are a number of people on the chat that are the best in the business. Don't believe me, believe them, because they do it every day. They have the credibility and everything. And we have a lot of resources and tools, and we just want to see you get better. That's really what we want.
Awesome business. Just want everybody to be, have the chance to be everything they can be. So.
And then you'll get really great, and Tom will get you a job.
Boom. And we wrap.
Well, guys, let me jump in here and say thank you very much for once again proving that I'm right, that I can bring the smartest people into the room with you two. This has been awesome. Beth, I called you the high priestess of music mentorship.
Oh, sweet. Thank you. I
Well,
like crowns. I like crowns. I'll borrow one from Whitney. Whitney and I will wear them both.
Well, Doug, thank you for being so awesome, and I
Thank you,
can't wait
Doug.
to see what happens with Black Sleeves Media and the platform. That sounds very exciting. Thanks for sharing the update today. Folks, earlier in the chat, I posted next week's 3 events. We're doing 3 Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We're doing more this month because there's so many incredible women that we want to feature on this platform. And so Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at the same time, please tune in. And with that, I'm going to say, please be nice to each other, wear your mask, and get a shot as soon as you can. Later, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.